Greetings, guys. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Monette, and this is my channel, Evolve with Monette. I am a professional intuitive empath, and today I want to give a little bit of food for thought to my fellow empaths out there as we begin the new year. I want to talk about what empaths need in life to be happy. If you are on this journey and you have found this channel, you already have identified as an empath, and that means that you feel things differently. You are in tune, you're highly sensitive, and you have a very reactive nervous system. So that means that your outer world can sometimes overwhelm you very easily. And it's really important as an empath to take time to contemplate and to think about life. Otherwise, we can feel very flustered and unsettled. So that's what I want to talk to you guys about today. We make a lot of excuses before we understand our gifts and what we need to do to nurture it. So we're the people that would maybe drive alone or curl up in a quiet place with a book, and we do that as a decompressing. For many years in my life, I did not realize how careful I had to be with my energy and the place that I invested my time into. I thought that, yes, I'm gifted, and I knew that, but I didn't realize that I had to cultivate a safe space, yes, safe spaces for myself to really regenerate. And it wasn't until I shifted into another phase of my life where I essentially became grounded. and I mean that in a very literal and magical and visceral way. For me, I began to date a Capricorn, and his energy, though he didn't do it purposely, really tethered me to earth. And some days that was infuriating, but mostly what it's been is probably the greatest gift I've ever received. And it taught me about grounding and about methodical energy and about things building in an appropriate time and how delicious that can be. And I'm not talking about our relationship, but what happened is, even though he had nothing to do with it other than just being and existing in his own quiet strength and grounding, I was able to settle into a place where I wasn't running around. And I don't know empaths, where some of you guys are running around like chickens with your head cut off. I have a friend who would say that I would cover 50 county miles in one night. I was doing my work as an empath, as many of you may have been doing, right? But I was doing it with people that were ungrateful, with people that were using me. I was giving too much. I was in narcissistic friendships of every stripe and color. I had terrible narcissistic bosses. I was at a dead end job. I was in the matrix. If you're on this channel, you know the matrix exists, and more than likely, you've clawed your way out of it. But what I will tell you is, before you do, you're running around. That's literally why they call it the rat race. That was not our life. In fact, that life depletes us. And that's what I learned. In my grounding associated with the relationship and having this calming energy around me, I began to assimilate those calming traits, and there was order in the court brought to my life regarding my career and everything else. But that's how I learned an up close and personal lesson about grounding and being quiet and taking time and creating space where it's just you. So let's talk about that. Peace is very difficult to find when you're surrounded by other people. That's what I mean, a space where it's just you. So all of the sounds and the various stimuli and all of that stuff can be really overwhelming, and I think we underestimate that. So empaths need regular alone time and mini breaks. Guys, listen to me, sweeties. Mini breaks throughout the day to refocus and recharge. And it's not just being alone, it's about self-preservation and self-care. So the number one thing that you need as an empath is plenty of alone time to center and recharge. We'll go down the list of 13 other things, I do believe, but I want to just talk to you about that. That's the thing that I got the biggest lesson about. I'm more productive when I'm not around people. I still, as a professional intuitive empath, talk with at least 100 clients, no joke, guys, in a week, okay? I average about 100 clients a week because of the companies that I freelance for and whatever at the least. And I have my own separate personal clientele. Some of you guys here on YouTube I've got to work with as well. So I am busy. So my energy is given out to many people still, but now it's people that want help. Now it's people that want to evolve. And the odd energy vampire does slip through. That's why empaths, this time alone matters. Because for when those moments come, you need to recharge. Number two, routine nature therapy. So we all, as empaths, mostly usually enjoy being around nature and kind of soaking in its healing qualities. But especially in this quarantine where we're inside of our house a lot, I know I certainly have been, it helps to take a break from that life, the inside life, and be present and enjoy the natural beauty and the gentle sounds of the earth and a light summer breeze and the flowing water and chirping birds and that dog barking in your neighborhood and just the smell of grass and outside. That's also part of the grounding, you see? Because I was stubborn and running around like a chicken with my head cut off, my angels brought in an energy via a person that was grounding to me. Somebody that I couldn't become codependent with and whatever. His attachment style is very different than mine. So what I knew the overall lesson of him was sit down, daughter. It's time to focus. It's time to grow up. It's time to evolve. That was how my angels work with me. But now I have these other techniques. So it's not just that energy that I pull from. Now I go outside. Now I do an abundance of grounding activities because I realize I need it. You need to go outside. The sun matters. I have videos up here. You see me. I'm outside. I'm at the beach. I've been healing, but I'm also grounding. And I think that getting out matters, okay? Three, you need deep and meaningful conversations. This one is so powerful. Mm, so powerful. Pardon me, guys. This is probably out of the list the thing that I need the most. And it matters so deeply. And I had a shift where someone passed away in my life last year. And that was the person that I had deep and meaningful conversations with. And there was such a vacuum, such a void in my life. And I had friends that supported me, and I found that I would be saying things to them like, I just have felt very alone this year. And I realized that as an empath, I could feel their feelings shift. Like, I've been here for you, I've been supportive, and I'd have to say, no, yes, you have. Absolutely, pardon me. But what I couldn't explain to anybody, any of the lovely, gorgeous, beautiful, helpful, kind, thoughtful energies that have loved me from afar and prayed for me and worried about me. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. But I pushed a lot of people away because I was dealing with some all my healing and codependency stuff and all that jazz. There's a point here, empath. Hold on. But what I realized is that because the person that passed away was a person that I had cultivated deep, meaningful conversations with, I didn't feel like I had someone in my life. And that was a big lesson for me about how much communication matters and how deeply intimate that is. We need that intimacy, empaths. So we aren't necessarily introverts, but similar to kind of introverts, we do hate small talk. When people are making small talk with me, I find myself getting so irritated. I didn't it's amazing the things you learn about yourself, right? I find myself being so frustrated and thinking, "Oh my goodness, like let's get to the point." Also, as an empath, we have this ability to discern. So it's like kind of one of the hazards of my job and the thing that I kind of hate because my interpersonal relationships can sometimes not become private. And what I mean by that is because I know when someone's lying straight to my face, that's probably one of the most painful experiences we have, isn't it, empath? When someone literally is lying right to you and you know it because you hear their thoughts, you feel their energy, you know exactly what's going on. And that's just, I don't know, that's just a quick aside. Maybe that's, I don't know why I said that. Maybe that's for somebody out there. But small talk, yes, small talk and lies. That's what this is about. So when someone's just BSing, I don't have time. I want to go deep. Instead of just the small talk, what we thrive on is discussions about like the important and meaningful topics. So, you know, when you're empathetic, you're thinking deeply about everything, right? We're thinking about what's going on in the world and in our own heads. And we need conversations as empaths about things that really, really matter to us. Otherwise, we feel isolated and lonely without getting to discuss the deeper meaning of life and its experiences, you know? So here's the deal. That's what I learned this last year. I didn't realize how much I value communication. And I found myself in a situation where God let me see how terrible communication can be. And then I dealt with the person that passed away, and I didn't have that intimacy because I had literally cultivated that special relationship with that person and literally taught that person how to communicate. And they said as much all the time. But we ended up having these beautiful synergistic conversations, and I missed that so much last year. That was probably the thing that bothered me the most. And I realize now, as an empath, that that is something that I will build to cultivate again in my life, or I will cultivate again in my life. But for you guys, that's something you may not even realize matters. Okay, that could also be why, heads up, 7 up for somebody out there, you're holding on to maybe a toxic relationship, because that part was fulfilling. And that was literally my situation. I was in an unhealthy situation, but that part was very fulfilling for me. And that was my intimacy, that was my sex, that's what I extracted, right? We are sapiosexuals, we empaths, and so that mattered to me a lot. Number 4, limited time with draining people is very important to keep you happy, my sweet empaths. You know the types of people that I'm talking about, girls, ladies. They're often referred to as what? Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba, energy vampires, or maybe narcissists. People that ask for the whole world and leave you feeling what? Completely sapped of all of your peace and energy. So, you guys, we have huge hearts, you know? We want to help everybody, we want to heal everybody, but the problem is we also take on that suffering as our own. You know that we do that. So, when we encounter people and they can tell that we're sweet, yummy empaths, they may use that, and you know it, to their advantage, and it can become toxic very quickly. So, we need clear boundaries with those that drain us. And what I learned over the last couple of years is that no is a complete sentence. I was such an over explainer. And if I don't catch myself, old habits die hard. So even though I have lovely new firm boundaries that I'm very proud of, it's like going to the gym and developing muscle. Like, I'm really proud of, like, I'm getting pretty cut up regarding boundaries. I'm really good at it now. Much better than I was. Still room to grow. However, that no is a complete sentence is right. I say no all the time now, regarding especially being around people that can be draining. I just put up a video today about, or yesterday rather, about energy vampires and what it feels like. And it literally feels like being exhausted. So be careful. You need limited time with those people. Usually, as empaths, we do the opposite until we know who we are. We run headfirst into disastrous, draining energy vampire dumpster fire people, train wreck people. We love them, they love us. It's the narcissist empath dynamic. We try to fix them, they hate us for fixing them, they blame us for the things we couldn't fix because they're maniacs, and then we take it on and we feel that, girl, stop it. Okay, ladies, now let's get information. No, no, stop spending time with those people. When I started investing into myself and just pulled out of relationships that were shit, what happened was everything in my life started to manifest. I realized that I couldn't get wins with people, and some of you may realize that too. Stop. Relax. They can save themselves. The fifth thing that we need is, when we are in a relationship, we need a partner who understands. Ooh, yeah. Mm, mm. I'm hearing Moby right now. Ooh, Lordy, trouble so hard. Um, we need a partner that understands. So we're good at loving others as empaths, guys. The closeness of our intimate relationships can be difficult, though, uh, because we can easily be overloaded by what our partner's energy is and what we feel like is happening, or if we feel like we're losing our time to decompress. So it's really important for empaths to be with people who understand this and are okay with redefining physical and personal boundaries. The reason that my marriage works is because my husband is very self-soothing. He doesn't require much of me, and at some in my unhealthier years, as we were dating in the beginning years, I remember feeling like he doesn't need me. Does he even love me? Does he want me? All that stuff. He's the kind of guy, though, still to this day, that if I had a boo boo, if you will, he's coming running to fix it, and he's got gauze and bandage, and he's very paternal and lovely, right? Very masculine energy in that way, but loving, very kind. But if he has a cut, I don't know about it till I see the band aid. He very rarely brings me anything that's going on with him to fix. He usually self-soothes, and he's very quiet. So it works. Sometimes people can look at everybody's marriages and be like, why are they together? Or how are they together? What is that? That's the magic in mine. Everybody has a little bit of magic in your marriage. I want you to find that, especially since we're talking about relationships. I feel led to say that to you. A lot of us get complacent and get into trouble because we forget that our spouse on some level does fit us. It doesn't mean we may not need lovely friends and other stimuli, but understand that you're with that spouse for some kind of reason. And for me, that was one of the reasons, is that I get a lot of alone time in the best way. It doesn't bother me, right? I had other, like I said, that person that passed away where I had those beautiful, deep conversations. That may not be something that you're experiencing with your spouse. It's not something that I have with mine, but what I have is exactly what I need. We talk about things and spirituality in our own ways. However, I get quiet time. And God knew what he was doing. The sixth thing is daily mindfulness practices. So before the day even starts, that we can be overloaded in our thoughts. Carolyn Mace had a great series where she talked about the us being a battery that's at 100%, and if we're in the shower worrying about something that's going to go on at the office with the gossips and whatnot, before we even get to work, we've already depleted our battery bank, and we're at like 83% by the time we walk into the office, and someone else takes a chunk out of us, and then we go down to 60%, and then our boss calls us in, and something goes down to 50, and then something happens, a mishap with the car, and we're at 40. So she talks about, what are you giving to yourself, and how much of yourself is given away before you even left your house. As an empath, you need to have these mindfulness practices because it helps it become easier to cope. It's a must for getting out of your head, guys, and it's a must for calming your mind and body. And for some, it might be a daily guided meditation, right? There's a plethora of those here on YouTube. For others, it might be journaling or deep breathing or walks or scripting or vision boarding. Whatever you do, take a little time. I have a cache of musical instruments, and in the morning I come out and I play various sound bowls. I play the bongos and congos. I have rain sticks. I have pan drums and tongue drums. I have percussive instruments. And so I literally will figure out what I need to do that day. And for me, my mindfulness is music therapy, essentially. And I sing and I play and I do stuff. Or I might come out here and just be quiet. My favorite part of the day is the morning when my husband is still asleep and the house is quiet, because I get time. And I've always loved that my whole life. I didn't realize that as an empath, I need that. I need quiet. I need time where no one's talking to me so I can have all of my thoughts filter through. And some of you need that as well. Number 7, peace and quiet from loud noises. Oh, I love it. The phrase that, we can't hear ourselves think is spot on for an empath, okay? So loud music, yelling, or other sudden or repetitive sounds get really overwhelming really quickly. We need environments where we can have quiet moments, like I just said often. Um, the place I live, I have a neighbor who absolutely has the loudest music. And in the last year, my husband and I have been like, well, we're going to make the transition. We were city slickers, but we're making the transition to the country. And I'm so manifesting and pulling that in for our home, because that variable that I can't control of a neighbor with bass that sometimes some of you guys may hear in the background of some of my videos, that's not my music, that's his. And so that's what I want you to know. That has motivated me to accelerate my manifestation, because I need that. And some of you guys need that too. So not some, everyone. No loud noises. 8, the ability to receive rather than always giving. This one was huge for me. We love to give empaths, especially when we know it will make others feel good. And we also don't like feeling like a burden. That is a huge thing for me. I remember being a kid and we have an uncle named James, Uncle James, and all of the people in my family, all the kiddos in my family and various people and cousins and whatever would always go to my Uncle James and ask him for money, and because he was our rich Uncle James, right? And $5 for candy or something like that. But my mom would be like, you never ask Uncle James for anything. And I'm like, no. Even as a kid, I didn't want to like ask my uncle for anything. He gave me lovely gifts and was wonderful, but I was never the one that would go up to him and do that because I didn't want to be a burden. Even as a kid, I didn't want that. Now empaths also, this energy of not wanting to be a burden comes from us having toxic or narcissistic parents. A lot of us did. That shaped us. For me, it was my father, who my Uncle James worked under. And I was actually just with a cousin the other day, and they were telling me how my Uncle James would jump off a roof if my dad said it. My dad was a malignant narcissist. My uncle's a sweetheart. He's the empath. But anyway, so in any case, that's a little side anecdote. But the point is that you don't ever want to feel like a burden. Mm. And sometimes when we are doing this work, we can feel like a burden. I remember specifically the reason I think they're having me talk about my dad is to say that I would go out of my way not to get in his way because we all know the wrath of a malignant narcissist. And my dad was violent physically. So I was always like, stay out of the way. Don't be too much. Don't be too much. Right. Maybe some of you guys have had that experience. So it can make it difficult for us to accept or ask for help or support. Also, we know if you're dealing with that narc empath parental dynamic, that making your needs met is not allowed. And a lot of us replicated that in our love relationships later. I certainly did, where I just would not say what I needed because I didn't want, because we're not allowed to have our needs met. And we found out when we didn't make a need known that we were punished for it. Yeah. I'm sorry to go so deep with you guys, but I guess they want someone to hear that. So the balance of giving and receiving is part of a healthy relationship, and it's part of emotional health. It's part of emotional health, excuse me. What I learned giving and receiving in the last few years with a really good human that matriculated into my life, an earth angel, and absolutely shifted everything for me about that. In fact, she and I have notorious and ridiculous Venmo fights all the time because of giving and receiving, and maybe just paying for things and whatever. But we have a really healthy boundary and balance, and everything is fair and split. But she also taught me to just receive. She's a giver. I've never met somebody, empath, have you, that gives as much as you do. I'm a giver. I've never met somebody that could outgive me and also was like, no, you need to take this. And sometimes I'll say that to her. So we all have this opportunity to learn that lesson. It will come in different forms. That's how it came to me. And it started about 5 or 6 years ago, or 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know how long, but she taught me the law of giving and receiving and how it creates abundance as well. So that's another thing. If you want your money to increase, you need to be very comfortable with accepting either help or giving help, but not always thinking that you have to be the giver. It is so lovely to receive, which I didn't know. I've never had people graciously give to me. Not graciously. It was always with conditions, or it was always not as much as they could. It's nice to meet a giver. Number 9, emotional release from past traumas. This is super important. I was reading an article, and Dr. Judith Orloff, who is a psychologist, was talking, and she's an empath as well herself, and she's written extensively on the topic of both highly sensitive persons and empaths who are very prone to various forms of post-traumatic stress. Y'all been watching my videos this last year. I'm not going to tell you that I didn't have little PTSD and that I still don't. Meaning I have had people that have tried to love me this past year in 2020, and I pushed a lot of people away, and not because I didn't love them, but because I am triggered. I was triggered very deeply. I might still be triggered, but I was deeply triggered last year. I was like, you're being nice. Like, what's this about? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to get? That's what happens when we go through these traumatic situations with these freaking narcs, right? But that was it. So because we feel everything so deeply, we often grow up not knowing how to handle those sensory experiences and overloads. And in addition, we get really, really to the place where we experience physical or emotional. When we've experienced physical or emotional emotional abuse, neglect, bullying, family, chaos, familial energies that are off, or simply have people in our lives who don't understand our sensitive natures, our past traumas right away get carried into adulthood if we don't know how to work through them and release them. In the situation that some of you guys know about, if you're not new to the channel, for me, I had a dynamic where I was being bullied and gang stalked and talked about and neglected and given the silent treatment. And I was dealing with someone who was creating chaos in a familial dynamic. And this was all very familiar to me because I had experienced it with my dad. Someone who was a gossip, someone who was a womanizer, someone like I literally had to walk out my childhood trauma. And that's what I want you guys to know. You will do that if you don't heal. It will come to you. If you're an empath, you will not cross over to the next world without having to face your shadow side and your familial pathology and your trauma and unravel it so that you can have healthy relationships in the future, and also so that you can do your work. If you're an empath, we don't just sit down. We have work to do. We're light workers. We're here to change the whole energy of this earth. And this is our time, my loves. This is our time. So do your work. If you haven't had a cleanup on aisle 10 yet, trust me, it will find you. You can't outrun it. God knows I did. I thought I had safeguarded a situation in my life so that it would only turn out one way. I was careful. I did everything right. I didn't do the wrong and tempting things, only for it to blow the F up in my face. And what blew up in my face was my father. All of that drama, all of that trauma that I drug into it, I lived it out with a living person. And I had to go through that. Our past traumas get carried in, like I said. And so it's really important. I'm going to spend a little time here because there are 7 strategies within. So we'll do a little mini quick one here about releasing it. Journaling about your early traumas is important. Going back in your mind and removing your inner child from the situation. So I reacted in my abusive situation the last time that I was with a very abusive person in my life, an emotionally abusive person. I immediately regressed back to my father. And in ways it was beneficial, and let me explain. I was able to survive the situation without getting to my lowest shadow side with her, which Lord Jesus knows. The devil was like, hey, it'd be fun, let her have a piece of your mind. And my dad, being an expert violent person and an expert person at cursing people out and making you strip down, he was there too. But I will tell you, empaths, he was there and he was like, handle this. He kind of alerted me to her behavior and said, this is me and we're going to heal this right now. It was a very powerful experience. But what I will tell you is that I really had to get small, and then I had to grow up. It all happened in a matter of minutes. I was immediately a child having someone treat me the way my father did, and then I was immediately an adult. And I had to get out of it. But being that child helped me to work through the manipulation and the mind games and the abuse that she was doing so that I could get out of alive, essentially. Everything with my father, when he wasn't in a good mood, he was bipolar as well, just like this person. When he wasn't in a good mood, was terrifying. You never knew when his mood was going to shift. He was terrifying. I don't think she was as terrifying. She was cold and weird and creepy. He was terrifying, okay? And like, because he was violent. She wasn't, that I am aware of, physically. Well, yeah, in her own way, but not in the way that my father was. And so what I will say here is that I had to survive. And in that case, I also had to survive. And when I felt that feeling, guys, what I will tell you is that I realized how toxic the relationship I was in. Because if I had to feel like I had to become a child in order to survive, I was deeply triggered. And that's what healed me, was having that moment. I don't want you guys to have to get to that moment because, man, it was one of the hardest things I've ever experienced. One of the most paranormal, one of the most freaky. It was really interesting to see that this family pathology stuff is real. And I want you guys to pay attention to that, okay? If you have to go back, then understand that. Feeling and expressing your emotions on the surface, which can often be done with a good therapist or talk therapy, is important. Setting clear boundaries with people, super. The biggest thing you ever need to learn, empath, take time for yourself and set boundaries. Both of those things are number one. I don't even know how to categorize one above the other. Take a few sleep deep and slow breaths before responding to your triggers. I did that in my situation. It was like my body slowed down. It's like when they say you get shot or you're in a trauma. I knew that I was being actually triggered and traumatized because everything went in slow motion. Everything she said, everything she did, the whole time, whenever she was being my father, and excuse me, my angels wanted me to pay attention and see it. They showed me and they were like, look, and everything slowed down. And so I didn't respond to her or react to the way she was triggering me. I literally was able to process it. Um it was very like tai chi. That's the best way I can describe it. And that's what you need to do. Those slow deep breaths matter when someone is triggering you or creating past trauma reminders, or triggering your PTSD. You want to become like Tai Chi. You know those people that you see out at the park slowly moving? That's what I did in order to survive. Meditating is amazing and important. You guys know that already. And practicing self compassion. The self compassion is freaking huge, okay? It's huge. You gotta love yourself and be like, okay, girl, it's okay. Or, okay, guy, I did the best I could here. Number 10, freedom from carrying other people's burdens. Guys, y'all know what I'm gonna say. Because we sense other people's emotions so easily, we can feel like it's our job, don't we? To kind of heal everybody else's pain. But what we have to remember is that it's not. We can be a listening ear, yes, and we can check in with others, but it is not our responsibility to fix them. And recognizing this is absolutely key for you to thrive. Because I was doing those 50 county miles and I was going hither to and fro, and I was being everybody's doctor, literally, emotionally, I never realized that I didn't have to fix them. And I would stay in the trenches with someone who was genuinely mentally ill, who refused to medicate properly. Not just the person I'm talking about, but I've had several of these experiences in my life, as many of you empaths have. And I would think that I could fix them, and then they would hurt me or betray me like a feral animal that you've been loving and feeding. But because they've been used to abuse and because they're off balance, they don't know that they're lashing out at you. They're just scared. And I could see that, but that doesn't mean that you stay to get the rabies infested bite. Empaths, do not subjugate yourself and stay in some kind of arbitrary fight with somebody to make sure that they're healed and whole. They will resent you for it no matter what, especially mentally imbalanced people, especially narcissists. They don't want to be fixed. They love to kind of languish in their misery. They just want you to emotionally, good Lord Jesus, they want you to emotionally masturbate with them about their misery. They don't really want a solution. And sometimes some people do, but now people pay me to give them real solutions. My time is valuable. Your time is valuable. No one's just chatting with you to chat. If you're a reader or whatever, that's what I happen to be. You will pay me for my time. That's not something I would have stood in and felt comfortable saying years ago. And in fact, it's something I struggled with. My worth, self-worth, and what I was worth. I know my worth now. And empath, if you're listening, you're starting to know your worth, or you already do. So stop giving away your free good energy. You are as good as any therapist, sometimes even better. Know that about yourself. When I think about the hours I invested in some people that absolutely didn't care, didn't use it, didn't benefit, and I think about the clients that I work with where I see progress in their life. They come to me broken sometimes, as we all come to people broken, as I've come to people broken, as you've gone to people broken, and they say, I want to fix this, I want to change this. And there are those that I see, that I help. They appreciate it and they value it, and they pay me for what they value, and they pay me what they value me at. And